look down there in the middle of the valley, you will notice that there is a yellowish building. The big one.
Yellow one, yeah.
Okay? Now, beside it, there is a grayish building. The grayish building is the church. It's a huge church and a huge building. They were the only two things half spared during the fighting for Artena and Valmontone. The town of Valmontone is all around it. You have a lot of trees covering up the constructions. But that is where Highway 6 came up and led into Rome. And the Germans made their stand there. They had all their Tiger tanks moved out in the area, and it was a force objective to go down into the valley, go out and get them out of there and block their advance north, trying to get to Rome or trying to get out of the area. Many of the other Germans had gone a different route behind this mountain here. From further back, they were detouring Rome through the mountains where the planes could not hit them and where it was very difficult to follow them through the valleys. Now, force came in here. They were on the sides. They had very many difficulties getting ammunition, getting food. They had all the problems of being pinned down in a situation where the Germans know you are there and they keep hitting you with these cannons. The cannons were the feared 88 millimeters, which could shoot easily for 20 kilometers, so imagine how precise they could be here. Plus there was somebody in the town flashing messages and telling them what was supposed to be hit. The headquarters, Frederick's headquarters, were right inside this building here. Right in there, in the lower part, where the foundation walls are very thick. The names of Frederick and Walker and Finroll are still on the wall, written with a pencil. And the owner has assured me that they will not be rubbed out. Eventually, when it is possible, they might give us a chance to see them. Okay? Now, the force tried several times to get, you see this road which takes to Valmontone. They went into the fields and they broke out into the fields trying to get there, but there was a lot of fighting and they kept being hit down here. One of the reasons for the second plaque to be put up there was that there was a man by the name of Antonio Santos, who was an aidsman, a medic, and he wasn't right up to the standards, but in those days you took what you had, what they gave you, and you needed a medic, and that was it. He was always left behind. These guys marched for 50 minutes and rested for 10. When they stopped, Santos would slowly come up, and as Santos approached them, they took off again. So Santos came all the way from the beachhead up here and was down here in an aid station. He went out several times to bring back in men to the aid station. He was wounded once and kept on going, patched himself up, went out, got the men, brought them back in, treated them. Second time, and he was hit a second time. The third time he didn't make it. So Ed said I could not get him. Ed Thomas, I'm talking about the commander of 1st Battalion, 2nd Regiment. This is where I got my information, besides the Burns book. I would like to put something up. I could not get him any kind of medal, but I can't put up a plaque just for him. I will put up a plaque for all the guys who fell here. And sure enough, as fate would have it, in 2010, the relatives of Antonio Santos met someone of the force. That someone directed them to John Hart. John Hart said to me, would you happen to know anything of a forceman by the name of Santos? And I had the privilege. Obviously, Ed couldn't do it anymore because he was gone, But fate has a strange way of giving back. And I had the privilege of taking this woman and her husband over to the side here, down in the valley, to where her uncle was hit the third time. This is the first plaque up. The way it's phrased, I know exactly who wrote it. The man who wrote it was Tito Vittorio Godzer, a professor of English literature at the Catholic University of Milano, and he was a partisan who was in the area and hooked up with the force. I have a photograph of him in civilian clothes with Stan Waters and his men up in the mountains before they came into the town. And it says, in memory, on the 27th of May. Now, mark my words, 27th of May. I come from a town which is 70 kilometers down the road. My town was being liberated on the 27th of May, 70 kilometers down the road. The force was already here. This tells you how fast they moved. A vehicled army was not as fast. The 1st Special Service Force, American and Canadian, operating as the avant-garde of the attack after the breaking of the beachhead, liberated Artena. And for 4 days, they defended it against furious counterattacks by the adversary, the enemy, which means that they were nailed here because the furious attacks were the furious attacks of the 88s and the rest. From Artena, as their starting base, the force launched successful offensive actions, which led to the liberation of Rome. This plaque is dedicated to the valorous and hospitable citizens of Artena who helped, and to our comrades in arms who died in the course of the fighting. The Association of the 1st Special Service Force, 29th of May, 1991. 2 years ago, you could not read this plaque because the rain, the smog, the snow, the freezing, and so on and so forth had practically obliterated any form of lettering. 2 years ago, before the tour, we had it redone. And we'll do it 2 years from now. Over here. This is a plaque which was practically a way of repaying Antonio Santos for his no medal, for the non-recognition of what he had done. And it says, in memory, during the battles in and around Artena in June 1944, these soldiers of the 1st Special Service Force, American and Canadian, gave their lives. And you have a bunch of names, among which the medic, not the hero, the medic, Antonio Santos. These brave men who sacrificed their lives for the cause of peace and liberty of Europe, and for the Renaissance, for the rebirth of Italy, is the reason for which we dedicate this plaque. And this was in June 21. It says, the city of Artena, on the 60th anniversary of the liberation, remembers its honorary citizen, Tito Vittorio Godzer, who was from northern Italy. He was an officer from the Trento region of the Italian army, and he was a partisan. in the formation of the bands on the Monti Lepini. We are on the Monti Lepini right now, Lepini Mountains. And he was leader of the Godzer group. He operated heroically in the area of the Lepini Mountains. He was connected and added to the 1st Special Service Force, participated in the heavy fighting for the liberation of Artena from the 27th to the 4th of June, and he was the first to enter Rome on the 4th of June 1944 through Porta Maggiore, the main gate. So this tells you, as Ed once said, when you enter a big city like Rome, there are many ways in, and you never know who is the first in. What we do know that we were across the river by a certain hour. Whoever came in after that, that's his problem to prove it. Mark Ratcliffe and his group were the very, very, very first in. No doubt about it. But as a unit, as a battalion, as a regiment, 2nd Regiment was in. Okay? Now, when they were marching, Ed Thomas's battalion was held back by a machine gun emplacement before entering Rome. Stan Waters's was a bit more lucky and they managed to get ahead. They both had the objective of taking the Termini station. When Stan's battalion got to Porta Maggiore, they could see it maybe from here to those cars, 20 meters away. At that point, and I have a photograph, Godzer, dressed as a Forceman, helmet, baggy pants and all, hastened his pace, the Italian. He hastened his pace and went through the gate. As he was going through the gate, Stan Waters said to him, "Tito, are you getting smart?" Tito took another 2 steps, went through the gate, turned around and said, "No, Major. Somebody had to welcome you to Rome. Welcome to Rome." But in the meantime, the first Allied soldier through Rome is an Italian.